Welcome back to DAGryffyn Hobby. My name's Dave. In my hands, I have the new 4.5 beta release of the Menards Santa Fe F unit. I know there have been plenty of reviews on these engines, but I wanted to see what I thought of one, and I actually caught it in enough time this run, so I figured let's get in there, let's get one, let's see what it looks like, and see if I think it will be a viable model going forward. I seem to keep missing the notice that Menards has released a new engine, so when I saw this one, I figured I might as well give it a shot and see what it's like. So here it is, the Menards Santa Fe F unit. It comes with the engine, this remote, no batteries, mind you. It does come with extra traction tires. Are these traction tires? I don't know what else they would be. I'm not a connoisseur of traction tires, so I'm assuming that's what's in this bag. My consideration of this engine and any possible future Menards engines is that I hope it would take the place of companies like K-Line, Weaver, pre-Bachman Williams, places that gave us an option to the higher dollar Lionel items. Now, I love Lionel trains. They're my favorite. But as a budget hobbyist, even the $500 engines, I don't want to spend the money. My most expensive engine in my entire collection was $250, I believe, with shipping. So for me to spend close to $200 on this one, that's pushing it for me. I'm going to want my money's worth out of it. So let's get it on the layout, take a look at it, see how it works, check out the features, and troubleshoot if we need to. I need to check to see what kind of power I have at this main track here. I've turned the transformer up all the way, and I'm going to use my multimeter to see what the voltage is. It's only 17 volts cranked up. But you know, I've got passenger cars on this track, so I'm going to remove those and see what kind of difference that makes without all those cars being lit up. And let's see what it's at. Still not 18 volts, but definitely a difference. So keep that in mind if you're going to be running a bunch of passenger cars with incandescent lights in them, that they do affect that voltage. I'm going to say for my uses, this is enough power to test the engine. I don't know how they expect you to use it. There are no directions in the packaging to tell you, so I'm going to assume that 18 volts is what they're looking for. Just a few quick thoughts on the engine itself. First, it did sustain some shipping damage. You'll see one of the horns is broken off. Not a huge deal, but you know, for any new piece, you don't expect pieces to be snapped off. But other than that, I don't see any obvious signs of damage or wear from shipping. I just do not understand the chrome. Why would you want a chrome base plate with chrome wheel sets and chrome wheels and chrome couplers? It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's shiny and it's kind of pretty, but I don't know. I would rather they were just black. I mean, a proper gray or silver would be nice, but short of that, I think just the frame and the wheels and the couplers all being black would be fine. It just doesn't look right. The shell looks pretty nice. I don't think the red is the correct red. It's a very muted, flat, dark red, but I don't know that that would really bother me. I do really like the portal windows. They look nice. They're a good size. It's not, you know, a bunch of deformed plastic. It looks like a good portal window. I think the quality of the paint overall is really good. The printing is pretty clear. Yellow on the nose is nice. I really don't have a lot of complaints about it. Really, if all of this wasn't chrome, I would be a lot happier with it. I mean, the shell is really quite nice. Here we are nose to nose with the post-war Lionel 2343. Proportions are pretty similar. I think they're both pretty good looking. Here you can really see the difference in the color of the red that they used. I've heard a number of people say about the length of the Menards unit being too long, and I don't know what the actual scale proportions are, but you can see here it is a bit longer than the post-war Lionel version. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about the controller. The screw was really tight. The door didn't want to come off. And they don't supply batteries. I mean, the stickers are kind of cute, but look like they'll come off before too long. But it's a basic remote, and it does its job. Got a power switch on the side, and to get it to work, all you do is put the engine on the track, turn your power up all the way, turn the remote on, and you'll see the light turn steady. It's connected. So no complicated setup. At first I was disappointed there was no directions in the box, but I didn't need any. Put it on the track, turned up the voltage, turned on the remote, and it just worked. So that's fantastic. There was no confusing anything about it. You know, it just did what it's supposed to do. It does have a sound system in it. It's on off. So, I mean, while you can do short and long or any combination you like, it just doesn't sound like a horn, and then it just stops. It doesn't fade down or anything. It just turns off. But what about the bell? My preference, that's a little fast, a little loud, and a little harsh. Something that I definitely don't have experience with is this.
The air brake test was good, so let's get ready to move. Roger that, we are ready to roll.
That sounds better than the horn and the bell as far as I'm concerned.
Then let's go. Dispatcher, 3945 East is ready to proceed. Dispatch, I see the signal has gone from red to green. We are moving.
Detector 84B, train 3945 East. No overheat detected.
I have no idea how much this thing says. I don't have the patience to sit here and go through it all, because really I don't care that much about the crew talk. I'm more interested in how it works. So let's give it some power. First click, second, third click, and then off it goes. First reverse, second reverse, the light comes on and it started going backwards. I do believe people have said in the past that they would just slam into a stop when you cut the power off, and this does not do that. It rolls softly to a stop. Okay, so cutting the power at the transformer does stop it quicker than just going back to the neutral position on the remote. But you'd have to be standing right by your transformer in order to do that. So an addition of a full stop on the remote would be nice, just in case you forget you have a train on the track and you're about to crash into it, which is what I did at first. It does have a switch for the engine sounds. Turn that on. Yeah, it just occurred to me that I'm using my microphone, and that cuts out a lot of the background noise. So I'm going to take that off, and we'll be able to hear the engine better. All right, the microphone's off. Hopefully we'll hear the engine a little bit better. The volume is all the way down. It's the lowest. And that's the highest. The hum of the engine it's pretty neat.
The air brake test was good, so let's get ready to move. Roger that, we are ready to roll.
I had the bell going. It doesn't change with speed. And when I hit the horn, it deactivated the bell, and then the bell didn't come back on. What's important to me is, does it work and does it pull? So I'm going to move the engine up, and I'm going to start throwing cars on this, and we're going to see what it can do. The whole deck consists of 7 boxcars and a caboose with ease. And just for reference, I am not using a post-war transformer right now. This line is hooked up to a K-line transformer, probably from the late 90s. This might not be the right thing to use, but it's all I have as far as even remotely modern transformers. So it's what I'm going to use. was pulling 14 cars, still going on the third click. And it doesn't really click, but you can feel an indent. So the first two, it doesn't go anywhere, and then the third one, it starts moving. I have not seen a change in performance yet with these cars on compared to how it was with no cars. So let's add some more and check it again. Unless I miscounted, that was 20 or 21 cars, including the caboose. And I don't really think I would pull more cars than that. Not on my layout anyway. I mean, I've gotten more cars behind an engine, but I don't think that's going to get me anywhere right now. This engine has not slowed down considerably with all these cars. I still am using the lowest setting. It's keeping a constant speed, and it's pulling nicely. I would like a slower base speed. For a new engine like this, with this type of remote, and having a track voltage up at 18 volts, I'd like to see the thing just creep. I think back to what my uncle always told me when I was younger, when I was working with HO stuff, and he said, any engine can go quick. It's a quality engine that can go slow. And that's what I think of with this engine. I'm not surprised that it can go quickly, even with a bunch of cars behind it. I am a little disappointed that it doesn't go slower. I'm gonna let it run for a while and see how it performs. Hopefully you were able to hear in that bit of video, the engine has started squeaking. I was running it for maybe about, 15 minutes. I feel like it was getting a little jumpy, maybe, so just not as smooth. But then I noticed a noise, so I disconnected the cars and ran it forward and back a few times, and it really makes more noise in reverse. The engine has now been sitting for about maybe a half hour. I figured I would let it sit for a bit and see if that made a difference. So I'm going to turn it on and see if the squeak has diminished or gone away after sitting. So it's definitely still squeaking. I have not checked to see where this can be oiled or lubricated, so for the moment I'm going to flip it over and hopefully find a spot or two to lubricate it, and we'll see if that helps. I put oil as close as I could to the axles, so wherever the axle bushings are on the trucks, just a drop on each one, and then I threw it back up here on the track. It moved it and it was squeaking, but now it seems to have stopped. So since it's not squeaking for the moment, I'm going to run it some more. I don't know if you just heard that, but it did squeak. So now I'm going to put some oil on the pickup rollers and see if that does anything. It is still squeaking, so at this point I think I'm going to see if I can pull the shell off and go from there. The shell came off very easy. There were just 4 black screws underneath. You will see underneath a number of chrome screws, but those attach different parts to the frame itself. It's the 4 black screws, one in each corner, that remove the shell. The wiring looks pretty decent. Thicker gauge wire on the motors and the pickups, and it's all routed nicely. There's not a huge mess of wires in the middle. But can I find the squeak? That's really the question, because that, more than anything else, will eventually drive me nuts. I have the truck removed, and I figured I'd put some oil on the axles down in there, since whatever I put on the edge most likely did not reach inside. Before I go on and oil anything else, I want to figure out if that was the noise or not. Unfortunately, when you're troubleshooting and you want to know what was the cause, you need to do one thing at a time. So I'm probably going to have to take this apart and put it back together a couple times. The screw that holds the truck to the motor is a 3mm Allen. The wires, there's 2 parts. The screw that goes through is the grounding wire into the truck, is what holds both of them in place. Underneath you have this plastic isolator, and then the pickup. So I've only done the rear truck since I've decided to take the most annoying way forward. I'm going to put it on the track and see if that did the job. And if it still squeaks, we'll go to the front truck. Well, either I did something wrong or I broke it. It's not doing anything. Only thing I can think of is that I didn't get the motor set back properly into the truck, so I'll remove it again and see what happens. Okay, I must not have had the motor back on right. Maybe the power and ground wires were close enough that they were bridging the gap and shorting. Well, there was still a squeak, so I will take off the front and we'll go from there. Motor out of the way, and remove the screw for the ground wire and release the truck. So that's nice that that comes apart pretty easily. For the rear axle on the front truck, I can get to it, but the front axle, I can't. Not without taking some stuff apart. 2 Phillips, and the front plow comes off, and then I can get to the axle. But as much as I don't like all the chrome, I do appreciate the fact that this whole thing is metal. I really hope that that's the extent of it. That would be really nice. Both trucks have been removed, and those axles on the insides of the trucks have been oiled. Just a little safety note. If you're going to be taking this thing apart, keep in mind those are 2 decent-sized capacitors on there. Right now the track still has full power. I'm going to shut the power off. You'll hear the click, and then watch how long it takes for the lights to go out. So that whole time those capacitors had a charge. Make sure once you kill the power that those lights go off so that the capacitors are drained. You may be hearing squeaking right now, but that would be the wheels on my freight cars. It's a little hard to get this thing to stop exactly where you want. I've been playing with this for a little while. Now that I've got the squeak to go away, do I like the engine? I wish I could give you an easy answer. I can't compare this to Lion Chief because I don't have any. So I don't know if some of the characteristics of this engine are similar to those or not. For the price, with shipping and without the rebate, because I am nowhere near a Menards store, the rebate is useless to me. This was, I'll have to check, but it was about $190. For that price, I could get a bunch of different engines that I would like more. This one has a little going for it in that it has the remote and I can wander around with it and just, hit the horn, slow it down, speed it up. That's a nice feature for when you do train runs, that you can stand by the camera and slow it down. I do like the fact that you can turn the engine sounds on and off with a switch on the engine, and that switch is easy to get to. It's right here, but on the other side, you can reach it without taking it off the track. But the horn. The horn needs improvement. And as far as I'm concerned, so does the bell. It's kind of very harsh sounding, very one-dimensional, and I just don't really like listening to it. Now, the crew talk...
Then let's go. Dispatcher, 3945 East is ready to proceed.
The crew talk's pretty good, and it mentions the number on the engine. So, that's engine specific. That's cool. But, considering the quality of the horn and the bell, I would like to see the crew talk removed and the attention placed on the horn and the bell. Because if you can't get the horn and the bell right, then I don't really care to hear somebody talking. I would use the horn and the bell on this a lot more if they sounded better, a lot better, and they worked a little bit better, and if you could overlap them. But if you're ringing the bell and you hit the horn, the bell stops. There are 3 lights inside, one for the headlight, and then one for each number board. You can see the light for the number board just centralized behind there. It needs some kind of diffuser, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like 39.45. It doesn't illuminate the number board as much as just give you a point of light behind it. And that's as slow as you can take off. That's just not slow enough. I don't like backing up that quick either. The high speed's impressive, especially with the cars that I had on there. The low speed, that needs to be worked on. Especially with the constant 18 volts, I should be able to get this to crawl. My main areas of recommendation for future improvement really would be the slow end of the speed. I'd really like it to crawl. And I'd like to see an improvement in the horn and the bell, even if that means removing the crew talk. There are some finish issues, like the red being kind of the wrong color. You can kind of see this decal here, it's not straight. But for the most part, I'm perfectly happy with the way it looks. Of course, again, minus the chrome. I just don't get the chrome. One thing I did not really think of trying yesterday when I was filming the rest of this video was turning down the voltage on the transformer. I've been able to turn the power on the transformer all the way down to 5 volts, and this still operates, but goes a lot slower. I'd like to know what the designed voltage is for this engine to operate, and will it do damage to run it at a lower voltage. Where it is now is probably about 6 or 7 volts, and I'm getting a nice, consistent, slow speed, and the horn and the bell and the crew talk still work. It's just going slower. What is the optimal or expected voltage, and how low can you turn it, or how high can you turn it before you damage something? The difference in performance I noted with a much lower voltage is that it drastically limits the top speed. I've adjusted the transformer to 12 volts and it's giving me a decent low speed and still a pretty decent high speed. At 12 volts, this is the lowest speed this engine will go. Which is still a little on the fast side, but much better than at the full voltage when this transformer was kicking out close to 18 volts. If it's not moving fast enough for you or not slow enough for you, maybe adjust the voltage on your transformer and see if that helps. But again, I don't know if that will cause damage either in the long term or the short term. So if somebody knows that, please let me know in the comments. Kind of recap what I think of this piece, and well, really that's all I can do is give you my opinion of it. I'm not necessarily going to say yes, you should buy it, or no, you shouldn't. That's really up to you and what matters to you as a hobbyist. And does this engine give you what you need, or does it not? What do I expect out of an engine? I want it to be affordable, I want it to be usable, and I want it to do what it's supposed to do. I may have said earlier that I don't have Lion Chief stuff. I don't have anything with a remote. Everything I have is purely conventional. So to me, part of the allure of this engine is that it has the remote. So some of the things that I like about this might be the same for all engines that have a remote like this. Like I said, I don't have that experience to compare. So I put the engine on the track, I turned the remote on, and that's all there was to it. Simplicity. I put it on, put on the power, and it worked. That's good. Anytime you get something out of the package and you're not stumbling over it, that's a big plus. So I'm really happy that right out of the box, I could get it on the layout and get it going. My uncle, who is the other train nerd in the family, was here when I opened the box earlier, and he pointed out a couple things like the red not being the correct color. That's probably not something I would have noticed. But the glaring thing to him, and me too, is the chrome. I just don't understand the chrome. I don't like it. I like that most of those parts down there are metal. That's great. But black, gray, silver, not chrome. The chrome, it's just a deal breaker for me. If their engines continue to have the chrome parts like that, I just wouldn't buy them. It's gaudy, it's unnecessary, and it's too jarring to me. I don't want to see the trucks glistening like that. It just doesn't make sense. Cosmetically, the only thing wrong with it was one of the horns was snapped off. Not a big deal. It's not like the side was pushed in or a portal window was missing, but it's kind of obvious that it's snapped off. So it's in the packaging, so that's good. I can glue it back on, but I shouldn't have to. A $200 engine with shipping and everything, I shouldn't have to glue that back on. So I'm disappointed by that, but not surprised. Everything else seems strong and sturdy and like it's not going to be an issue long term. As you saw in the video, there was a noise I had to deal with, and that I see as a big problem. It's a brand new engine. I can just imagine somebody younger or somebody who doesn't have the technical ability being really excited, getting this out of the box, getting it on the layout, pulling some trains around, and then have it squeaking horrendously. I would be so disappointed if I was a kid, got that, and it started happening. I mean, it still worked fine, but the noise was horrendous. I take it for granted that people can just take things apart, troubleshoot them, and put it back together. I know not everybody can, but sometimes I forget that. For me to take it apart find the cause of the noise and put it back together. It's not a big deal. I actually really enjoy that part of the hobby. But to have to take the shell off, remove the trucks, remove the power wires, so that you can get in there and lubricate the inner axles, that's really not acceptable to me. I'd say that's my main complaint. And it might not have happened to everybody's engine, but that doesn't matter. It happened to mine. Since I did do that and take it apart and oil it, it is running much quieter and a little smoother. During assembly, they need to pay a little bit more attention to lubricating the moving parts. I could sit here and nitpick plenty, and I just don't see the point to that. I'm not going to praise this engine as the next big thing, and I'm not going to slam it as being, a hardware store's attempt at something more. I think it's great that any manufacturer or retailer is trying to do something like this. That would be great. Home Depot, Lowe's, come on, people, get in there and let's get, more options for some of the lower end entry level O gauge trains. It works, which is the number one thing for any toy like this. It needs to work, and it does. It works acceptably. It pulls, it stops, reverses direction, and it's easy to use. As I've said probably 100 times, I wish it would go slower. I'm going to keep running this engine. I want to see how it does, if it starts making noise again, if anything breaks, if it overheats. I kind of want to just run it constantly and see how long it takes before it shuts down, but I don't have the time for that. I do have to go to work. I guess the real question is, will I buy another one? I mean, because you might buy anything once, but would you rebuy it? I don't know. It would depend. I do like Santa Fe engines. They're gorgeous, but being an East Coast guy, I'd rather see East Coast Railroad, a New York Central, Pennsy, anything like that that's a little closer to home. If they come out with a number of Santa Fe engines, I'm not that interested. I probably wouldn't buy one. If in a year or so they're making additional engines, I might try one of those if they came out with something with a East Coast Railroad. But I have this one. I'm not going to run and get another one. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on DAGryffyn Hobby.